Skeletons of the Marital Closet by Tang. Chapter 1861. Summer had seen Joe's back before, but today, she noticed that he looked so tall, his shoulders so broad. She wanted to lean on him. Would it feel very solid? Could his embrace shield her from the wind on this rooftop? In the distance, Gale was nervous, clutching her palms tightly. A large hand landed on her waist. Shawn said, "Why are you so nervous?" "Because, I don't know what Summer's answer will be. It'll be revealed soon. What if she rejects him? The real show is still ahead." Joe must have prepared more than just the decor on the rooftop. If Summer did not agree, everything else would not be shown, and it would all disappear without a trace. Shawn answered calmly, "Whether she accepts or rejects, Joe's prepared things will be shown to Summer." "Why? How do you know?" "It's a man's intuition plus the connection between brothers." With that, Shawn pulled her into his arms. "Gaily, it's windy here. Be careful not to catch a cold." She leaned against him, smiling. It would be nice if later Summer leaned on Joe's shoulder like this too. Shawn did not reply, he just hugged her tighter. Finally, Joe turned around again, meeting Summer's gaze once more. His eyes were slightly red. Nobody knew if it was from the wind or his nerves. "Are you ready?" Summer asked softly. "Should I say it?" Joe gulped. Finally he nodded. Okay." He held his breath, looking at her, his gaze falling on her red lips, waiting for her answer. To his surprise, he did not need to wait because Summer did not say anything at all. She simply walked over and stood in front of Joe, one hand holding her flowers, the other lifting to hook around his neck, and then she kissed him. The rooftop was silent. Only Joe's heartbeat could be heard. Everything happened too quickly. Summer kissed him voluntarily. This was her answer to him. She kissed him, meaning she loved him, meaning she accepted him. Joe's pupils constricted. After 2 seconds of blankness and 2 seconds of daze, he finally reacted. A man's instinct cannot be restrained. Nature took over, and he immediately held Summer's waist, taking the initiative to deepen the kiss. While Summer's lips barely touched his, he pried them open and dove right in. They passionately kissed amidst the romantic atmosphere. After waiting for so long, their dreams came true. They found true love in an embrace. Summer did not say a word, not a single word, but she told Joe that she was willing. She wanted to be with him exclusively. Boom! Just then, a firework exploded in the sky. Chapter 1862. Joe embraced Summer from behind as they admired the grand fireworks together, watching the countless confession messages flashing on the tall buildings. This was the surprise he had prepared for his beloved woman. Previously, Joe had always felt that such extravagant confessions were too flashy. And he even thought that he would not do such a tacky thing when he was no longer single. Now, he understood that anything done for the person you love brings joy. He did not care about others' opinions as long as she liked it. Summer turned her head to look at him. "I also strive to be an excellent girlfriend. Mr. Winter, this is my first time in love and as a girlfriend. Please excuse me and be gentle with me. You do not need to do anything. Just stand there, I'll love you," Joe replied. Her heart instantly felt sweeter, she excluded sweetness. "In fact, my answer has always been to accept you. I never thought of rejecting you. I've avoided you because of fear. I'm afraid to give my heart and end up with nothing in return," Summer said. "It won't happen, Summer. I will give you all my love. Even someone like Shawn learned to love Gale well." Joe thought he could not be worse than Shawn. Summer looked up at the blooming fireworks as if speaking to herself, but also telling Joe, "I do not care about the future. No matter what it looks like, at least to have loved, to have felt the excitement, to have been happy is enough. Is the result really important? I used to value the result too much, so I ignored the process. The result does not matter, the process of loving someone does. Just like Gale said, I cannot start because I'm afraid of the end." Joe rested his chin on her shoulder. "Summer, we will definitely have a satisfactory outcome." "I hope so." He corrected her, "It will be so." In the distance, Gale withdrew her gaze and turned away. It was very beautiful and romantic. She already felt the happiness for Joe and Summer from the bottom of her heart. However, the more she witnessed others' happiness, the more she thought about herself. After the joy came a huge emptiness, as if a black hole was about to swallow her. She had also had such romantic moments with Shawn. She and Shawn had children, and a foundation of trust in their relationship. Gale thought that happiness would continue forever, and nothing could separate her from Shawn, only death. Unfortunately, she was too naive. She did not know that there were so many setbacks and hardships in this world, so many that caught her off guard and were difficult to prevent. Gale thought that if Shawn had prepared a surprise for her at this moment, her first reaction would not be excitement or happiness but fear. She felt dirty and unworthy. She felt that Shawn's efforts on her were a waste. Gale kept telling herself that it was wrong, and that she should not be so inferior. However, it always came up, reminding her constantly, unable to be dispelled. "Gale?" Sensing something wrong with her, Shawn asked, "What's wrong? Are you crying?" As he spoke, his fingertip brushed over her eye corner. It was dry, she had not cried. Then, what was she thinking about? Chapter 1863. Almost immediately more fireworks shot up into the sky. The sky was illuminated. The rooftop became brighter, enveloping the two kissing figures. Watching this scene, Gale could not help but feel tears welling up in her eyes. Her best friend was starting to find happiness. From now on there will be someone who knows her ups and downs, understands her thoughts, accompanies her when she needs it most, protects her, loves her, respects her, and cherishes her. "Gale," Shawn suddenly called her. "Yeah," she responded, but she did not hear him continue. Gale was puzzled. She looked up at him, only to find his lips parted for a kiss. Shawn's lips were slightly cold, but they carried the familiar and comforting taste and scent she knew. "I'm just taking advantage of this romantic atmosphere. I'll say one thing too." "Gale, I love you." Gale returned his kiss. Her eyes were still teary, but she genuinely smiled. This fireworks display continued for a half hour, lighting up half the sky of Sea City. What's even more remarkable was that all the skyscrapers in downtown Sea City were displaying the message, "Summer, I love you." Every passerby saw this message. Everyone envied this summer girl. What a thoughtful man her partner must be to perform such grand gestures. Summer leaned into Joe's embrace. A few minutes ago, she was still wondering what it would feel like in his arms. A few minutes later she had already experienced it. The fireworks reflected in her eyes, sparkling. "Joe. Yeah? So you didn't just prepare all this on the rooftop. There are also fireworks, and the city-wide confession." "That's right. Actually, I also prepared drones to write your name in the sky. But because it's night, that idea couldn't be realized," Joe said. Summer asked, "Didn't you ever think that I might reject you? Or are you just that confident, knowing I'll definitely say yes?" He held her. "I didn't think that far. I only knew that, no matter what your answer is, I want to give to you everything I prepared for you today. Even if you failed, this fireworks display would still bloom. All the skyscrapers would still display the message." That was his love, and she should know it. "Summer, I saw a phrase that woke me up all of a sudden. It said love unexpressed is love non-existent," Joe said. "How can people know if love is not expressed? How can people see it? Love should be spoken, should be proclaimed to the world, not silently kept in the heart. I used to think that you would see my feelings for you, even if I didn't say it, even if I denied it. Thinking back now, I was really too naive back then. Fortunately, Summer, you waited for me and gave me a chance. From now on, please trust me. I will wholeheartedly love you and will be a responsible boyfriend." Chapter 1864. Gale took a deep breath, trying hard to appear normal and calm. "Let's go. Let's not disturb them." "Okay." Shawn glanced at the embracing figures, a hint of satisfaction flickering in his eyes. Joe and Summer were finally together. They had trusted fate and kept their determination. After so many years of being apart, they should cherish each other more. Shawn wrapped his arm around Gale's shoulder and left the rooftop, tidying up her tousled hair. Perhaps it was the deep bond between best friends or their telepathy, but Summer turned around and glanced back. She happened to see the elevator doors slowly closing. Gale also saw her and waved, saying something. They were too far apart for Summer to hear clearly, but she read Gale's lips. "Be happy." Summer nodded gently. "Shawn and Gale have left. Joe, how did you convince Gale to help you?" she said. "Do I need to convince her?" "She volunteered to help me," Joe replied. "She just wants me to be with you," Joe answered. "Summer, she wants you to be happy." Summer withdrew her gaze and looked into his eyes. "Will we be happy?" "We will." Their lips slowly drew closer and met once again. For lovers, no kiss is ever enough. Summer did not notice anything unusual between Gale and Shawn, either because Gale hid it too well, or because Summer was immersed in the joy of love. The car moved along the road. Gale sat in the passenger seat quietly. Even though Shawn kept one hand free to hold hers, he felt like she was not really in his reach. Shawn tried to start a conversation. "Gale, a few days ago, you and Joe were huddled together secretly. Was it to discuss this?" "Yes." "Was it your idea for Joe, or his own?" Gale smiled. "Both. I told him that women like grand gestures of affection, uniqueness, and the feeling of being loved publicly. He just needed to do it, and I knew Summer would like it." Shawn squeezed her hand. "So, you like it too?" "I've moved past that phase. Now I prefer stability and longevity," Gale said. Her expression changed, becoming somewhat melancholic, and she did not continue. I understand. Grand gestures and stability, Gale, you'll have both, Shawn replied. She looked at him, her eyes shining in the dimly lit car. After all these years, Gale's eyes remained clear and bright, unchanged. No matter what happened, no matter what she experienced, she was still who Shawn met. Nothing could tarnish her. Will we have both? When will we have them? Gale murmured. Soon. Shawn stepped on the gas, speeding up the car. As soon as Gale got out of the car, Shawn grabbed her hand and started running forward. Chapter 1865. She did not know what was happening, but she ran with him. The wind whistled in their ears as they ran. Gale, where are you taking me? Shawn asked. Just come with me. He was not running fast, but being tall with long legs, each of his strides was much bigger than Gale's, so she had to sprint to keep up with him. In Gale's impression, Shawn had always been calm, mature, and serious. No matter how urgent the matter, he would only walk fast and rarely run. She thought it was strange. Was there something urgent? All Gale could hear besides the sound of the wind was her own heartbeat. She looked at Shawn's profile, then at his hand, firmly holding her hand, interlocked fingers. Even if they kept running like this without stopping, Gale would still willingly follow him. She would do that to the ends of the earth. Gale, do you want to keep running aimlessly with me? He breathed slightly heavily. Gale nodded decisively. Yes. He smiled. At this moment Shawn surprisingly had a boyish demeanor. Holding her hand, he went straight upstairs. The housekeeper and servants saw this scene, not knowing what was happening, but no one went to ask or stop them. They passed through corridors, climbed stairs, and finally, Shawn brought Gale to the attic of Temperley Hall. The small attic was made of glass. Looking up, one could see the starry sky and the surrounding scenery. When did we get such a nice place in the house? Gale asked. Temperley Hall was very large, with over 100 rooms. She could not have visited every room, but she was the mistress of the place and should have known. Gale curiously looked around, examining the furnishings in this glass room. Shawn answered, because it was just built. Just built? Gale looked at him sideways. Why did you build a glass house? For watching our Shawn-Gale star. She was startled, then her eyes lit up, looking even brighter than the starry sky surrounding them. In the corner of the glass room, there was a machine covered with a velvet cloth. Gale did not know what it was. Shawn walked her over, lifted the cloth with a sweep of his hand. It was a brand new high-end telescope. The telescope was affixed to the ground, and its lens aimed at the sky. I've already had someone calibrate it. You just need to walk over, and you'll see our own star through the lens, Shawn said. He had already prepared everything without her knowing, just waiting to give her this gift. Gale's heart was about to leap out of her throat. She covered her chest with her hand, feeling the thumping of her heart. Shawn's gesture was too unique and grand. I thought it would take some time. I didn't expect you to have everything ready, Gale said. How can a gift for you be slow? From the moment Shawn mentioned their star, he had been planning how to go about it in his mind. As long as she was happy and liked it, then it was all worth it. Come on, Gale. Let's watch our star together, he said. Shawn and Gale sat quietly in front of the telescope in the glass house. Chapter 1866. From now on, there will always be a star for them. Gale admired the small, beautiful celestial body. The star. Shawn was right behind her, his sturdy embrace enveloping her, wrapping her in happiness. Do you like it? Gale nodded. Yes, I really like it. It's the most special gift I've ever received. That's not necessarily true. Huh? She blinked, puzzled, looking at him. Shawn flicked her nose. We still have many years ahead. In the future, I'll give you many, many more gifts. Gale, what makes you think this is the most special gift you'll ever receive? She smiled, her eyes sparkling. Shawn, what else will you give me? Whatever I can think of, whatever you want, whatever I have, I'll give it to you. Gale reached out, delicately grabbing his clothing. You've given me the stars, what gift could surpass that? There are more. Just wait for your gifts. One gift every year, Shawn said. Birthday gifts? He raised an eyebrow. Do I have to wait for your birthday to give you gifts? I can give them anytime I want. That assertive and domineering personality was so characteristic of Shawn. Gale lowered her head, retracting her hand from his clothing. As soon as she raised it, she heard him say, wait. She paused. What's wrong? Wouldn't you say thank you for the star? Shawn asked. Thank you. Do married couples still need to do that? Gale thought, but since Shawn brought it up, she might as well say it. Thank you, I really like it. She smiled lightly. In the boundless and immense universe, a star forever belonged to him and her, forever shining for them. Just the thought of it softened her heart and filled it with sweetness. Not enough. Shawn shook his head. Gale, your reaction to my gifts used to be different. She paused. What was her reaction before? She tried to recall, but her mind was blank. Shawn usually received her body in return. He liked to tease her fiercely. After the incident at the motel, she thought that Shawn would not touch her for a while. Even if he wanted to, she could not accept such intimacy. She would be afraid, terrified, and reminded of that night's trauma. Seeing Gale's expression growing increasingly despondent, Shawn knew she was overthinking again. Gale, let me teach you how you used to say thank you. He sighed softly. Teach me? Yes. Shawn took her hand, lifting it and hooking it around his neck. Like this. Gale, a bit foolishly, simply followed his lead. Leans closer. Hug me tightly. Bring your face closer, don't stay so far away. Shawn gave instructions, and she followed each one. The gap between them narrowed, and they could hear each other's breathing. Because of their height difference, Gale had to look up at him. I remember. Yes, this is how I used to be, Gale said softly. Chapter 1867. No, it's still missing something. What's missing? Your expression. Shawn cradled her face. Gale, when you act cute, I'm completely defenseless. Under his many years of teaching, Gale was no longer as shy as before. She would initiate kisses on the cheeks or lips. She would laugh and smile innocently, saying playful things that tugged at his heartstrings. The current Gale carried a sense of detachment, avoiding intimacy. He knew what she was thinking, what she was concerned about. After the incident at the motel, she had become burdened with worries, and she was cautious and no longer as openly passionate as before. Shawn loved to see and adore the Gale from before, but who knew how long it would take for her to return to her former self and become truly her again. Shawn knew it was not going to happen anytime soon. The damage was too great, the scars too deep, and they would not heal quickly. He could only help her repair little by little. Gale of course understood what he meant, but she could not do it anymore. She said, I'm sorry. Gale also wanted to be carefree again, to be a pampered princess. No matter how she behaved or what she did, he would accompany, indulge, and spoil her. She would be playful, and he would laugh. What a wonderful life it would be. Unfortunately, they could not go back. It had been shattered. Gale, the last thing you need to say to me is sorry. I do not want apologies. I want you to love me, Shawn said. Pausing for a moment, his lips slowly drew closer. To always love me, unchanged. I certainly love you, he asked. Do you love me like you used to? Gale wanted to say yes. However, the word lingered on her lips, and she could not say it. Shawn, Gale was not the same pure, innocent girl as before. How could she love him as boldly and fearlessly as she did before? Gale. Shawn's lips drew closer. Gale remained motionless, looking at his thin lips. He had kissed her many times these past few days, more than usual. Gale understood that Shawn wanted to use actions to tell her that he did not mind, that he never minded. In his heart she was still her position had not changed, and no one could shake it. Gale closed her eyes, accepting his kiss. Shawn seemed to want more than just a kiss. His breathing grew heavy, and his hands became restless. No, I can't. Gale turned her head away, leaning on his shoulder, forcefully ending the kiss. At the same time she gripped his wrist, preventing him from doing anything rash. Gale, why not? By this time her menstrual cycle should have ended long ago, and she did not resist his kisses. So what came next, him wanting her, was only natural. Actually, Shawn knew very well that Gale would not let him touch her for a while. She likely could not accept it, but he wanted to test her attitude, to see. This barrier had to be crossed. This thorn had to be removed. No, I can't. Gale shook her head repeatedly. Shawn, just give me a little more time. He said impatiently. How much longer? He had given her enough time already. Chapter 1868. Gale opened her mouth but found herself unable to give an accurate answer. Yes, how long would it take? A month? 3 months? 6 months, or even longer? Could Shawn endure such a long time? You see, Gale, you don't even know. Shawn sighed. I don't have to rush you. I can give you time to slowly emerge from the shadow of the past. But you must understand, we are forever husband and wife, forever able to do the most intimate things without reservation. I'm sorry. She tried to apologize again, but her words felt weak as they reached her lips. Sorry was truly the most useless phrase in the world. Shawn, don't push me, don't. Gale shook her head, still holding onto his neck. I know you want me to move on quickly, but I can't do it. I also want to go back to how things were before, but can we really go back? He answered firmly. We can. She looked into his eyes. Her reflection was mirrored in Shawn's pupils. Thank you, Shawn. You've always been on my side, believing in me unconditionally, helping me, never blaming me. Gale's heart was full of gratitude. He not only believed in her but also firmly believed that nothing had happened between her and Orem, even though he had seen it with his own eyes. Gale thought if she had seen Shawn lying in bed with another woman, naked and embracing each other, she might not have been able to trust him like Shawn did to her. She was lucky to have met a good lover. However, she was also unlucky, as one night had destroyed the happiness she had worked so hard to achieve. My Gale. Shawn stroked her silky hair. What am I going to do with you? He kissed her forehead and then bent down to pick her up horizontally. Ah. Shawn, what are you? Gale exclaimed. What did he want to do? Did he still want her? Gale stared at him dumbfounded. If you don't want it, I won't touch you. Shawn's voice was gentle as he carried her to the lounge chair. I respect your opinion. Besides the telescope, there was a section to lounge in this glasshouse. One could see the starry sky above just lying on this lounge chair. They could relax under the twinkling sky. Shawn sat on the lounge chair, letting Gale lie in his arms. Tonight, you won't be able to sleep again, right? His fingers ran through her hair. You'll be keeping your eyes open until dawn, not daring to toss and turn, nor daring to get out of bed, just lying quietly beside me, silently crying. In the morning, you'll run to the bathroom, use a towel to apply heat to your eyes and make the redness disappear, pretending that nothing has happened. Gale, just because I didn't say it doesn't mean I don't know. Gale closed her eyes. He had seen it all along. He just did not expose her. Shawn looked at the starry sky. Gale, I can remain calm and come up with solutions in the face of any problem. But when it comes to you, I always feel deeply powerless, time and time again. She did not reply. He did not speak again. He looked at the stars and she listened to his heartbeat. After who knew how long, Gale asked softly, what if? I always remain like this, unable to overcome it, torturing and punishing myself, unable to embrace you wholeheartedly, accept you. What should we do? It won't happen, Gale. But I feel like I can't get out of it, no. Chapter 1869. That night's event seemed to cast a spell over her, something she could not shake off in this lifetime. Shawn's tone was slightly solemn. I've said it before, there's something fishy about this. I believe nothing happened between you and Orem, it's just that I don't have evidence right now. Give me some time and I can uncover the truth. What if the truth is that something did happen between me and Orem? Gale lifted her head, looking into his eyes. Shawn furrowed his brow. Why do you always think in the worst possible direction? I don't dare to hope for anything because the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. Gale is always prepared for the worst. That way, even if the worst outcome happened, she could accept it calmly. Watching her like this, Shawn felt nothing but heartache. However, there was nothing he could do. As husband and wife, he felt utterly powerless. Gale noticed the tense atmosphere and changed the subject. Was I the first person to come to this glasshouse? Yes. She smiled. I thought you had it built especially for Joshua. After all, you promised him the naming rights for a star. Shawn replied lightly. He can wait, you're more important. You're so biased. Be careful, Joshua might not call you daddy. He'll come around. Shawn was not worried about Joshua. He could control Joshua. He just did not want to manipulate his son, as it was not necessary. He did not even want to hear Joshua call him daddy. Having Nicole call him daddy in her sweet voice was enough. So, you built this glass house specifically for our star? It was built for you from the beginning. What about Joshua? Shawn did not hesitate. He can use it if he wants. Gale shook her head with a smile. If he finds out, he'll be so sad. You won't tell. And I won't tell. How would he know? I've heard of kids pranking their dads but not the other way round. Shawn said seriously, how did I prank him? He'll have his turn. It's just that you come first. In our family, you're the queen. You make the decisions so naturally, you take priority. Women just love this kind of unreasonable favoritism. Favor for no reason, with no explanation, just giving them the best because they were them because they deserved it. The glass house felt like their utopia, a place where all troubles could be shut out. They listened to the howl of the wind, watched the stars, used the telescope to explore the universe, and could even sunbathe here during the day. It was wonderful. I really love it, truly love it, Gale murmured, closing her eyes and drifting off to sleep. The feeling of being surrounded by happiness was mesmerizing and intoxicating. Shawn carried her back to the master bedroom, gently covering her with a blanket and watching her peaceful sleeping face. Whenever he saw her so serene and beautiful, his hatred towards Orem grew slightly more. Gale should have been carefree, but now she was burdened with worries. The next morning, Shawn walked out of the room, gently closing the door behind him. Gale was still asleep. He had ordered the help to place sleep-inducing aromatherapy around the glass house last night, so she slept a bit deeper than usual. Chapter 1870. When he went down, his two kids had already finished their breakfast and were dressed for school. As soon as they saw him, Joshua ran over. "Shawn, do you remember what you promised me?" His face was full of anticipation. Shawn looked at him. "I remember. That's good, that's good." Joshua breathed a sigh of relief. "After all, we both had the same surname. You can't break your promise to me, right?" He had been dreaming about his star. For the sake of a star, he could even accept a name change. If anyone still called him Joshua Warm, he would definitely correct them loudly. "My name is Joshua Wood." It absolutely could not be wrong. Especially not in front of Shawn. Nicole interjected, "But Joshua, the reason you have to have Dad's surname is because you lost to me in rock paper scissors." Joshua's face dropped. After hesitating for a moment, he coughed. When boys talk, girls don't interrupt. Nicole was not afraid of him at all, immediately turning to Shawn. "Daddy, look, Joshua is scolding me." "How am I scolding you?" "You can talk to Daddy, why can't I? Besides, he's our daddy, not just your daddy. Moreover, you haven't even called him Daddy yet." I. Joshua usually had a comeback for everything but was suddenly speechless. Shawn was a little surprised. Nicole had a sharp side to her despite her innocent looks. He was pleased. His daughter might not be easily deceived by boys in the future. "Forget it, I won't talk to you. A good man doesn't argue with women." Joshua waved his hand, smiling as he moved closer to Shawn. "Actually, Shawn, I already know." "Know what?" "You were building the glass house. Even though you covered one corner with cloth, I still saw it." "That's a telescope, a super expensive one," Joshua said. He looked pleased and a little embarrassed. "You still care about me, you are sharp-tongued but soft-hearted. Not only did you give me my own star, but you also built an observatory and bought a telescope for me to observe it. I couldn't tell earlier because you're usually so quiet, complaining about this and that about me, but the truth is that your heart is full of love for me." Joshua loved to run around and play, and he explored every corner of Temperley Hall. It was not a small construction project, so he had noticed it too. Shawn's lips twitched. He had now witnessed what self-imposed delusion meant. However, he did not explain and let Joshua continue the misunderstanding. "Right. It's all set up now, you can go anytime," Shawn said. "So soon?" "Yes, Shawn, I love you, but be careful. Don't break anything," Shawn reminded. He still wanted to take Gale to the glass house in his free time, to sit and watch their star together. That was a romance only belonging to him and her. Others would not understand, and they could not. "How could I bear to break it? Even if I did try, that telescope can't be broken." Joshua stood straight and saluted. "Love you, Shawn." Shawn glanced at him. Men don't express love to each other. It was too cheesy. With that, he bent down and picked up Nicole. "Let's go have breakfast." "Come, Daddy will carry you."